sort of trying to get an overview as well. So it's kind of like, okay.
Right, everyone, it's 7 o'clock, so if we can make a start, can I welcome you this to our interim provisional October meeting, which is primarily we've got a couple of planning applications which we need to deal with, and then there will be another item on the agenda which we'll deal with as well. If we move on to, before we get onto the agenda itself, can I just ask, is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the council before we start the meeting?
Can I, about my planning commission?
Absolutely, you can, yes. So, Karen, if you'd like to go first, just to remind you, we've got the camera going,
Yeah,
so
I know.
that's fine. Start when you're ready.
Right. Good evening. My name is Caroline Channels and I live at 54 Brent Street, the site of the now closed village shop and post office. Most of you will remember me from when I ran the shop. I bought the property as a business and a family home in 2007. The business grew steadily for the first 3 years. It then declined annually until I closed the shop in March 2020. Over the 13-year period that I ran the shop, Bob Filmer was a constant source of help and advice. He did everything in his power to support me, the business and my family, and I'd like to thank him for this. As the shop was run as a private commercial business, there was a limit to how much the parish council could help with my ever-worsening financial situation. The post office closed in September 2019 and the shop sales hit rock bottom. In February 2020, I took on a temporary job at Somerset County Council. I was trying to keep the shop going, but after a month, realised that all my pay from the council was being consumed by the shop, and I was no better off. I took the difficult decision to close the shop. In the meantime, discussions had begun with David Sturgis, and the embryos of the community shop were forming. I was involved in the initial meetings with David and John Matthews. I think it was me that introduced them to the idea of using the Plunkett Foundation. Since the concept of setting up a community shop started back in January 2020, the Parish Council has supported this community project, becoming a key stakeholder once the shop moved out of my premises and into the Portakabin it currently occupies. The Parish Council has been instrumental in funding the community shop and leading the project to build a new home for it. 54 Brent Street has not been used for any commercial purposes since October 2021. I am now seeking to convert the shop into a one-bedroom annex and obtain change of use, turning the property into a residential one instead of a commercial one. There will be no change to the footprint of the property, and the forecourt will remain the same as it is now. Granting me planning permission to turn the old shop facility into a residential property will not mean the loss of the village asset. Should it remain as a commercial property, it could, in the future, seriously undermine all the hard work that has been involved in creating a community shop. I believe that the community shop product is far more valuable to the wider community than any commercial venture can ever be. I hope you will agree with me, and thank you for allowing me to present my plans.
No problem, thank you. Anybody got any questions you want to ask Karen before we get into the meeting itself? No? Okay. Any other members of the public want to say anything before we start the meeting proper? No? Excellent, thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. Which takes on the agenda itself, and apologies for absence.
We've only had apologies, surprisingly, from only one councillor, Charlie Woodward, who was in London. Apart from that, heard from none of the others at all.
Okay, are we happy to approve the apologies of Charlie? Okay, thank you. We will double check emails when we get to after the meeting. We did check a couple of minutes ago, but there wasn't anything then, but it doesn't mean that something might not have come in the meantime, so we'll update the minutes if we have had something come in. Item 2 is declarations of pecuniary, registrable interest and dispensations. If I can start with my normal declaration related to my role on the Somerset Council, and also just a reminder of the dispensation relating to the community shop shareholding I have. Any other interests?
Pecuniary interest on the first planning application.
Okay.
Of the act.
So that's the 54 Brent Street.
Shop.
Yeah.
Shop.
Okay. And I think that's it from everyone. Okay. Right. So we move on then to that item of the planning notice. Thank you, Dave. If we can get you to get up initially the site plan and then the block plan.
So you want the location?
Location plan, yeah. So again, just so everyone knows where we're talking about, obviously it's the post office and dwelling next door. Then we can go to the block plan. So again, just showing slightly greater detail, number 54, and the part that is the commercial premises there Caroline was talking about. And then if we can go to the elevations.
Proposed?
Yeah. So you can see that in effect the proposal for the impact on the street scene is the existing opening that's there which leads to the door that goes into the shop is turned into a door on the frontage. You've got a window where the plate glass window currently is, and obviously more brickwork, and the door remaining where the door is. Pretty much as far as impact from outside, that's the only impacts that members of the public would be aware of. As Caroline, I think, mentioned, there was an application in the past for a change of use, and one of the reasons it was turned down by Sedgwick at the time was because at that stage the shop, although it wasn't operational, was technically the last shop in the village, and Sedgwick had a policy within its local plan to protect the last commercial premises in the village. They don't count on the A38, the garage. Obviously now, with the establishment that we've physically got a built shop, then potentially that reason is not a reason for saying no anymore. But obviously that will be a decision for Somerset. But any comments or questions from members?
Is there anything else come back through, anything from highways or anything? So there's nothing.
Not as yet.
There's nothing else.
No, I mean highways raised a query about the forecourt, but from what Karen was saying, at the moment there's nothing shown as creating a block on the forecourt, and that's mainly the concern they raised before was access into Battleborough Lane if the forecourt was restricted, because on the previous plan there was shown a bit of garden area out front. That's not shown on this plan at present, and were it to happen, then they'd have to apply for that.
That's what I was going to say. From this, it looks really that there's no change, because it's a door and a window, which is all what you can see. So there's no visual change. There's no impact on anything else. So to all intents and purposes, it's actually staying as it is from the footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not going to affect anybody or anything.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'm looking for a recommendation.
Recommend to go ahead.
So recommend support.
Yes.
Okay. Is that seconded? Seconded. All those in favour of support, please show. Okay. And I'm going to abstain because in case it ends up coming to committee, I've got to not have nailed my colours to the mast. So that was 4 in support of support.
Maybe 4.
Yes.
Just maybe 4.
Yes.
Just 4.
Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us to the next application, which is just up the road at 3 The Coombe, Brent Street, which is the application to reduce the laterals of one sycamore tree with a TPO on it on the roadside by 1.2 metres and towards the house by 2 to 2.5 metres, and to crown lift to 5 metres above the ground level. So just confirmation of where this is the bit that's more or less opposite the hairdressers. There is a tree which has the sort of, there's a lay-by right next to it, and they're looking to obviously, the proposal is to raise the crown so make it, at least the branches won't be less than 5 metres off the ground, and to reduce the spread of it. Any comments or questions?
It's an improvement, so we should support it.
We've historically had the same application. So given them permission before, so I can't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the usual one.
So
But
is-
with making sure that there are no other issues that the planning officer,
Yeah.
case officer comes up with.
Okay, so can I have a proposer? That's Amanda, seconded Malcolm, and that's to support on the basis of good arboricultural practice, subject to the comments of the conservation or the landscape officer. Okay, all those in favour of that, please show. That's 5. Which brings us to item 4 on the agenda, which is matters for consideration, signing of the contract lease between the parish council and the community shop. So at our last meeting, we had circulated the details of the lease to all members before the meeting. There were a couple of issues that were brought up relating to the number of payments during the year for the rent, which parts of it didn't marry up, so they have been corrected so that they now, both parts of the thing refer to quarterly payments. There was the section that was relating to the utilities where it didn't reflect the agreement between us and the shop, which was that we were in effect looking after the water and sub-metering it to the shop, and they were looking after the electric and sub-metering it to the toilet block. That's now built into the agreement. It's highlighted that there is it's not all the responsibility of the shop, which is what it previously said. The third thing that was raised was about the interest rates and where we referenced it. They have confirmed that it is referenced to a commercial bank. We did query that with the solicitors, and he said that's standard practice on the leases, that they use a commercial bank rather than the Bank of England because the rates are more accessible, and so that's standard practice, which is why that's in there. But
You raised Jonathan, right?
Yes.
Fair point.
so those 3 elements that we were asked to deal with have been addressed in the new thing. Owen has received from our solicitor the hard copies of the document for us to be able to sign. So we felt it was better to do that in public and in front of members so everyone knows what's happened. So that's what we are planning to do, and we have some members of the shop committee with us tonight who, should they choose to, can also sign the document at the same time, and then it's all dealt with in one go. So, Owen.
There are two documents actually. There's the agreement for lease, which is a bit like a contract, normal contract between two parties, and that includes a copy of the lease as well. But the lease is a separate document, which obviously will need to be signed and there are 2 copies. So obviously the shop will have 1 copy ultimately, and we'll have 1 copy ultimately. Once these are signed, I'll go back to our solicitors, who will then obviously file them back through to Clark Wilmot Clark, who will then just check them to make sure they're happy with the signing process and so forth. And then at that point, they will advise us on the next stage of what we need to do.
I think part of the lease also mentions that it will be down to Clark Wilmot as the shop solicitors to register them with the land registry. So that will be something that will then follow up after this. And at that point, it's obviously a public document, which is that's what anyone who wants to go through the land registry.
Because I raised this with our solicitor, saying who actually registers it. He said actually it's the shop that would register it. The shop solicitor would register it, not us. So I just clarified that point. Okay. So the first document only needs really 1 signature from the chairman. There we go. And then obviously 1 person from the shop, which obviously I suspect will be David. We don't need a witness on this document, so it's just a question of signing it.
Yeah, okay.
So, David, are you right? Do you want to see?
Hang on, when you I'll grab this one.
Yes, the Bob will sign there.
Okay.
I believe that's the place for signing. Could be the place for signing. And then obviously, David, if you would sign, I think you need to print your name here and sign there. Actually, it seems to be what you're asking for. And then we need to repeat the same on this one, which is the second copy. So that one was done effectively. This one was the second copy, so we just need to do the same again. Repeat. Should we smile?
Yes,
Yes.
but you like to take a photo. Very tempters.
Should we smile?
It's the end of a long gestation, basically.
Absolutely.
Right, lovely, thank you. So that's that document there. And then this one, we'll require the services of Roger for this one, actually, if you wouldn't mind, Roger.
Basically, it's having someone who is not associated with the parish council or the shop to witness the signatures.
Right, okay. So the first one is chairman signing with name, address and signature, so if you could just sign there. Bill. Do you want to chair? Do you make yourself out to front a bit? Because you've got to write a bit more, you've got to put details and address and so. So what it requires there is put your signature in there. That line there.
Rich.
And then the name.
Just full name or second and third line?
Yeah, just make sure of it.
Depends how many names you've got. Lots of middle names.
And just full tidy now. Lovely. And I think the next one is for me to sign.
And you get to witness that as well.
Might as well, okay. This one. The digits, same as well. Signature, is that the same you've just done?
Right.
And you sign that. No need for, I don't think there's a requirement for witnessing those. Yeah, we need another member of the shop committee. For that bit.
Vice versa.
So we need a bigger top table.
And we've got to repeat it all again, isn't it? Is that
Yeah.
lovely?
I can see the teapot, I can't see the champers.
Yeah.
I can see the teapot, but not the champers.
Didn't you bring them?
I'm not supposed to be here
I
then.
thought you'd have the bucket and
Just
the
sign. If you could just put your signature on that first, that top line there.
There's no flights, there's no trouble there.
And then if Michelle does the underneath one.
Yeah.
It's going to be long.
Sort of under their regulations.
Oh, so he can't get back.
So that's that document done.
Just one thing, do we need to have anywhere printed the names of the two?
Doesn't ask for it.
Okay.
What I might do is I might print the names for Charles,
Yeah,
and if he wants to add them, he can do so.
yeah.
Sisters usually make it easy because they usually put the tabs in it. It's got to be signed. We didn't do it on this one.
He's back at the moment.
Swear on again.
Yeah, almost.
And for Roger.
Yes, yeah. All right, this way. Just for reading.
Yeah,
that's the possibly find I remember found her name book of all the lawyers, so I was in touch with them about what to do next. To figure out. Yeah, it just takes time for a funeral date. Thursday the 31st.
It used to be just ring card.
And it's that really great thing. That's how we do it. Is we've got our family and friends there. I feel a bit weird because yesterday she left to Yorkshire and stayed overnight. In Nottingham, and then today she meet my son cremated.
That's why originally they had to.
You still like seeing her in the shop?
Yeah.
Was it
So
so?
a 3 or 4 week decline actually. Physical decline in the
It's nicer than that for long.
Yeah, I managed to spend a week with her before, which was
Oh, that was nice.
yeah. Also moved up to Yorkshire 2 years ago.
Oh, did they?